we have a very interesting relationship with emotions. And by that I mean, if you think about the way we all interpret them for the most part, we have particular emotions that we deem good. And then we have another set of emotions we deem bad, things we shouldn't feel. And that goes that goes on for years and years and years. We've been teaching it not directly, indirectly, through social media, through movies, wanting to feel happy all the time. And if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling a sense of disgust, those are terrible emotions. You should never feel them. You should be embarrassed by them. That was, for me growing up, there were particular emotions that were heavily expressed as bad. But as time's gone on, and now that I've went past my identity loss issue, and now I help coach people go through the same thing and heal, I realized that emotions are simply signals. They're a way for you to experience life, of course, but they are signals. If you see them as that, they will give you so much information. It is unbelievable. And what do I mean by that? If you kind of just reflect a little bit on what emotions are you typically feeling throughout the week. Of course, you're going to have a range, but there's going to be a few in particular that you are more attached to, more connected to, for good and for bad. Maybe you're quick to anger. Maybe you're quick to be sad. Whichever one it is, there's one that dominates the majority. For the most part, I find people will personify as the emotion. It's a very natural thing to do. I am an angry person. I am a sad person. And then once we personify, what ends up happening from a mindset point of view is there's no longer any effort to actually work on it. There's no effort to look at it and understand it because that's just who you are. What's there to do? But the reality is that a healthy range is the way to go. You have to feel all the emotions equally when they come in, to feel them, go through it, and then come back to a neutral state. But often when we demonize particular emotions, we never want to look at them and never want to feel them. And therefore, they will be a suppressed energy sitting within the unconscious mind that every once in a while throughout the day or throughout the week, something will happen, someone will say something, whatever situation will spring up, that trigger, and boom, maybe you burst in anger, maybe you burst into tears, whatever it is. And then you later realize after, maybe you go, oh man, I felt almost possessed by it. I don't know what that was. It just seems to happen to me every once in a while. Those are signals. And they dig all the way down to the self, the soul, the inner child, the inner wounded child. And so the question is, how do we heal this? How do we move forward with this? Well, let's start with an idea. So the first thing we're going to do is you have to approach emotions with as much respect as possible. Suspend the belief that there are some that are bad, some that are good. And just look at them all equally as emotions that we feel as human beings. Number two, we have to engage with these emotions with curiosity and adventure. Not judgment, not criticism, because when we do that, we shy them away, we push them away, we reject them, and then nothing gets done in that moment. We're going to have to do it again later on. And so you have to approach it with the mindset of trying to understand what it is. What is it trying to communicate to you? And then once we sort of experience that, thought about it, immerse ourselves in that mindset, then we can get to the next step. The next step is going to be, we need to separate ourselves from these emotions. And the way we separate ourselves as practice is grab yourself a journal. I have my own journal like this. And what you want to do is write down all the emotions you feel, every single emotion. Write them down, and especially write the ones down that you're trying to avoid. Or maybe write the ones down that you deem as bad. All of them. Don't shy away at all. Write them down, and then I want you to personify this character. Give it a name. It can be silly, it doesn't have to be serious. It could be fun. We have one client, we called one of their emotions as a grumpy goose, just a grumpy goose emotion. And for him, it helps. It helps make it silly that way. And have another person who is actually very poetic about how he draws his characters. And so both, and that fits for him, and that vice versa fits for the other individual. So find your own style, your own personality. Give it a name, give it clothing, what does it wear? Give it a personality, give it a posture, how does it stand? And then most importantly, what is it trying to tell you? What is it trying to communicate to you? And you want to do that with every single emotion. What's going to happen as you do it, first of all, it's a fun exercise. It lightens the mood for you, and it makes a particular emotion that is very sensitive more relaxed. It lightens it up. It might maybe immediately feel a little overwhelming, but once you breathe through and you ease into this practice, you'll find yourself to be a little lighter. But once you do that, now you're going to spend the next couple days, couple weeks. It's hard to say in terms of timeline. It's very based on context to the individual. I always usually stay up to date with the clients and see how they're doing, but let's just say a couple weeks. Think about it, process it, understand them, build a relationship with them. And most importantly, when they come to you, when you feel this emotion, allow yourself to feel it. That I would say is hands down one of the biggest things I've noticed when I did it for myself and now tell others to just feel the emotion. Especially as guys too, it could be sort of wimpy, I guess, if you want to feel certain sensitive emotions, but you have to allow it. You will have to allow all this to pass through you in order for you to have a more healthy, integrated self. For the soul and the ego to integrate, the emotion has to be a part. And after a couple weeks, what you'll start to notice is this calmness that resides within you. You'll feel a little more relaxed, especially once you've allowed yourself to feel the emotion. And it's in that quiet time that eventually you'll start to piece things together. You'll start to realize, well, I seem to be always angry because I have been setting this expectation on myself to achieve all these things, not necessarily because I want to achieve them to that level, but because I felt a lack of worthiness growing up. I felt like I had to prove myself all the time. And so I got tired of that story to be repeating, so I just pushed it into my unconscious, pushed it away, just ignore it. And then now all I'm left with is the emotion behind it. I'm angry, I'm frustrated. I do certain things, doing certain actions towards my goal, and if it doesn't work out, I get so angry about it. Why am I so angry? I don't understand. I don't have the same emotion towards other things. You'll start to connect the dots. And I will say from personal experience, once you connect the dots, that alone is healing. Because once you gain perspective, you can actually now make a decision to move forward with it. Change the story. Have empathy towards yourself about it. Everything starts to change once you can start to see it. And most importantly also is how they connect to one another. And this one is a tough one, especially if you're a guy, if you're a male. It's very difficult. And the obvious common emotions that people suppress are the sensitive emotions. The love and the empathy, the compassion, the care, all that stuff kind of gets a little to the wayside. As we naturally sit more, if we're a guy, you sit naturally more in the masculine, but if you completely negate, it is extremely unhealthy. You're going to feel the psychic effect of what's going to happen if you do. And the process of regaining your identity has to work with the emotion. The emotion needs to come along. Because without the emotions, without them having a balanced range, you're always just going to find yourself in that same drama, the same issues going forward. Because one thing I've learned so far in self-discovery and regaining identity after a fallen dream, it is that the emotion, all the emotions, are nothing more than two things: how you experience the world and how you can actually connect to the inner world you live in to uncover the areas of your thoughts that you want to avoid. And I know they're hard to look at. Of course they're hard. That's why we push them away. But it is in the pursuit to look for them, to understand them, to be afraid, but finding courage within to seek and look and understand. And with enough practice, everything will change for you. Everything will change. Because everything that happens from the unconscious will move upward into the conscious and shape a lens to which you see everything. And the worst case scenario is if the unconscious is ignored long enough, you will be in such mental turmoil that you can't stop these possessions from taking control. And you find you're just in this inner conflict nonstop. And it is miserable. It is miserable. But the way out is through. Once you go through and you embrace that chaos, and it really does make a huge difference when you have a support system, of course, you will begin the foundation blocks to healing, to rediscovering the self, to healing that inner child, the wounded inner child that we all always wish to be again. But we have to also understand it is combined with a healthy ego, an integrated ego, both having communication back and forth, always staying up to date with each other. And it is through that that you will find wholeness as much as possible considering the world we live in. But through that, things will feel more beautiful. Colors will be vibrant. When you're having a moment of joy, you'll really feel it. And when you're having a moment of sadness, you'll also really feel it, but in a cathartic way, in a healing way. Because you understand it now from a different angle. It is no longer an enemy. It is an ally to you. It aims to heal you if you let it do its work. If you guys want deeper help, you can click the link below. It'll send you over to my website, and I have a newsletter that I send out monthly, and I would love for you guys to join and be a part of this growing community to regain our own identity. Because when I was going through that period of my life, I didn't really know where to go. There were places that you can do self-help and therapy and life coaching, but never really found a place that targeted that specific thing. I really wanted to be in an environment where people they want more for their lives, but they want to shed away the expectations from other people. And they want to be able to find who they really are, reintegrate, and then finally go about their life however they wish. And so I created that community for that reason. I really hope you guys join. So just click that link below and it'll send you over to my website.